Good morning, everybody.
What stops you in your tracks?
I was going to tell you that I had thoughts about rewriting and doing a different talk this morning because of the tragic events of the last week. But then when I started reading through what I had written before, I realized that the truth is the truth is the truth, and it's all applicable. So I just made a few little minor tweaks. Then we'll get to that. So anyway, what stops you in your tracks? We are made in the image and likeness of the divine, and that means that each and every one of you, no exceptions, contains all of the attributes of the divine. Now, we can never fully define the divine, but as we keep adding goodness and all of the wonderful adjectives that we know that that is what is true for us as well. And one of those attributes is most certainly the ability to create, and the fact that the spiritual truth are that we are always creating, right? Our thoughts are creating our experience and our life. We cannot not create. The question is, are we intentionally or unintentionally creating? Are we creating by design or are we creating by default? When we are intentionally creating, when we are creating by design, we are the happiest because we are consciously aligned with the source of life. And interestingly, the process of creation and the progress in creation are what bring us the most joy. When we see that we are creating something and we see that it's I'm sure with a painting that you're painting, and it's like you feel such pure joy as you're doing it, and then as you see it take its own life of its own, it just become this amazing thing. That's the progress in the creation. When it's done, your next thought is, well, what's next? Because you're already finished with that. So the joy was in the actual creation. So our question this month is, where are you on your joy meter? If it isn't as high as you would like, you might want to look at how you are doing with your process and progress of intentional creation. So I have a scenario for you. You are tooling along feeling like you are really on purpose and on point in a powerful process of creation and making great strides in progress. You are tuned in, you're staying tuned in to Potential FM. Remember from last week we did the different FM frequencies? You're remembering to tune in and channel up and turn the gloomy and reality FM down. Everybody doing that right now? Keeping that tuned down and staying with the... Okay. So again, you're tooling along, feeling that you were really on purpose and on point in a powerful process of creation, making great strides, great progress, and staying tuned in to the Potential FM. And you're feeling really, really good about it all, right? We're all feeling really great? Okay, you're on top of the world, you can do anything. Have you ever been there? I know I've been there. Have you been in that place where you feel like, man, it's all going so great. And then, wham, out of nowhere something happens. Big or subtle, that throws you back the length of a football field. Anyone ever have that happen? I know I have. More on that in a bit. And what do we do then? Often we just shrink back, we let whatever it was that we were going for fade away, and we go back to the status quo. We really let it throw us right off track. No more stretching, no more excitement about Potential FM. Let's just stay right here, because right here, I know what's right here. It's okay here, and we may not even realize that we've done that, but done that we have. And our joy meter drops a couple of degrees. Does that sound familiar? Anybody can relate to that? Okay. What if, just what if, you weren't meant to shrink in, go back to the status quo? What if you weren't meant to stay where you are? What if it were true that life is an ever-ascending upward spiral? Well, I'm here to tell you, you weren't meant to shrink, you aren't meant to stay where you are, because life is an ever-ascending spiral upward. You came here to stretch, to reach, to be engaged, and in the divinely inspired process of creation, to make progress in your creation and to feel great joy that is there as you do this. So what stopped you in your tracks? If it's something that can be, if it is something that can be very sneaky and it wears many, many disguises. So what is this sneaky, disguised thing that stops us in our tracks? When we experience excitement and enthusiasm for our potential passion, when we are in the process of making progress of intentional creation, our joy meter, it climbs. It's just climbing way up, right? And we've said that already. But then it hits the invisible subconscious limit or ceiling, and sabotaging behaviors set in. Gay Hendricks, remember when we talked about The Big Leap? He wrote that book. He speaks about this in that book. He calls it our upper limit, the unconscious ceiling we put on our ability to truly be in the juicy place of intentional creation. In our human experience, each of us has a built-in limit for how much happiness we can tolerate. Whoa, I had no idea we had a limit on how much happiness. I'd like to experience that and work on that a little bit. Does that sound, it sounds entirely crazy, doesn't it? But it's true. Hendricks refers to it as our upper limit problem, or ULP, ULP. But I think it's so influential and important to look at what I'm going to, to look at this, that I'm going to call our great upper limit problem, or gulp. Okay? Because that's what it makes us do. Take a big old gulp. The idea behind our gulps is that we all have learned to limit the amount of love, appreciation, success, good, peace, power, plenty, all those things that are our divine birthright that God has in store for us, that we can go for, let alone actually let in. And I know, for me, and this is a personal story, and you may have the same thing, have you ever had, life is going so great and fabulous, when is the shoe gonna drop?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not anymore, but in your past, perhaps.
Her father used to say, "Oh, you're laughing too much. You're gonna cry."
Right. Wow, everything's going perfectly well. Okay, what's gonna, sometimes we almost look for that, right? I know I have. We've learned this somewhere along the way of becoming conscious adults. It doesn't matter where or how, it only matters what we do with it now. And we consciously rise, until we consciously rise above it, we'll always be held down by it. Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind that we must rise superior to the world in order to create a new pattern. Wow. Think about that in what's happened this last week. We must rise superior to the world in order to create a new pattern. And until we learn to rise above our gulp, it will dampen our ability to be in the process of and make progress in creation. When we come up against the limit, something happens in us that triggers us to stop. So the first step in rising above our gulps is being aware of them by noticing the triggers. By actually being acutely aware of the triggers and realizing the metaphysics of things, there is more going on than meets the eyes. Because remember, we only get part of it. There's so much more going on behind the scenes. Realizing that behind the trigger is a consciousness we bring to it. Consciousness. What we think, feel, believe, our values, attitudes, words, actions, and reactions. Our consciousness, our individual consciousness, sets our gulps. So the triggers are all about our consciousness and are like red flags waving in the air saying, you've hit your upper limit. You have a gulp, a big old upper limit problem. So again, our first step to rising above our gulps, or said another way, the first step to raising our ceiling for joy, is to be aware of our triggers. Because sometimes they happen and we don't even realize it. We're going along and then all of a sudden you start feeling like your energy decreasing. You don't even know what led you there. When we recognize that, we can stop that. We've been operating under our gulps for a while and they have become habitual. So we need to pay attention to what's going on and put two and two together in a way we may not have done so up until this point. So I want to give you a collection of triggers that can occur, but before I do this, I want you to know that this is congregate participation time. As you hear the scenarios, ask yourself if you have seen that happen in your life as you were engaged in intentional creation. And I want you not only to ask yourself that internally, I want you to do something else. If you recognize it as a trigger in you, or you've seen it as a trigger in someone else, I want you to yell out gulp. Okay? So let's practice. Let me hear everybody say gulp.
Gulp. Gulp.
Oh, come on. We can do a little bit.
Gulp.
Oh, okay, there we go. All right, we've got our vocal cords all warmed up, ready to go. So here are some common triggers. As you begin to move forward on a creative endeavor that stretches your boundaries, subtle or not so subtle, limiting internal and external self-talk creeps in, and you listen to it and you believe in it. Anybody? As you contemplate moving to the green growing edge of your becoming, to quote the 16th century Christian mystic Hildegard de Bingen, or perhaps you have moved to that edge suddenly for no explicable reason, you start to feel down. You begin to experience low-level depression or even have painful, hurtful memories that begin to bubble up. Eckhart Tolle would say that you have activated your pain body. Anybody know that?
Go.
Okay. You have an exciting project before you. You are jazzed. You are pumped. You are ready. But then you find it difficult to focus. You're easily distracted by something else. Can we say Facebook, computer games, Pinterest, whatever takes us down the internet rabbit hole. Gulp. You are on purpose. You've planned your work and now you're ready to work your plan. And boom, a situation arises around you that seems totally outside of your control, but takes your energy and attention away from whatever it was you really wanted to be about. Gulp. You're about to take on a big leap, and a physical pain occurs that literally stops you from moving forward. Gulp. Okay, I heard some gulps there, quite a few. The one I planned to share for me was about my pathway to ordination. And, I saw several gulps along that because I started in 2004, for goodness sakes. And then we were with a separated organization, Religious Science International, and they had this whole process laid out. Well, you got so many points for being an assistant minister or an associate minister or a staff minister. You got so many points for publishing in the Creative Thought magazine, and if you went to conferences, and if you did this, and if you did that, and if you taught classes. They had this whole intricate point system that we actively got on the, how many years we would need to qualify to go before the panel. And, and each year we would go to a seminar and they would have changed the point system. No, we're not counting those points anymore. And it was just like, wow, okay. Well, that kind of took away a little bit of my energy and enthusiasm for going there. And then the two organizations joined. Well, now we had a whole different process. Now they wanted you to have a sponsor and a mentor, and they wanted you to fill out these reports each and every year. And I was dutifully doing that each and every year and talking with my sponsor and working on different things. And they wanted me to do all of these things, and I'm thinking, but I'm already doing that. And it was a little bit of a frustration. And then finally, Suzanne was there. She said, let's do this. Let's get this. And she was on me. Let's do this. Just do your paperwork. Because I had this huge thing I had to prepare and send in for them to review. So I finally bit the bullet, wrote it all down, took the time, but boy, I can tell you how many things came up to keep me from doing that. Oh, I've got to take care of this, or my daughter's getting married. Oh my goodness, all these other things. Nope, focused on it, got it in, and now I'm going in a week from Tuesday for my panel. So there were a lot of gulps along the way, but so that was the one thing I was going to share. And then I was going to say this week's events, threatened to set me back by challenging my core belief that we are evolving consciously, that peace on earth is possible. And I really felt myself at a point where I could have started down a downward spiral. But this week was such a blessing, sitting on the beach and out on the balcony with a cup of coffee and just watching the waves come in. And I really spent a lot of time not watching the reruns of the news over and the constant barrage of information, but knowing that a change in the collective consciousness is what is needed. The debates have come on about what we should do. And it's all out there. We're angry at this group. We're angry at that group. We need to get rid of this. We need to get rid of that. We need to do this. We need to do that. No, we don't need to do any of that. We need to have a change of the collective consciousness. And it's my job to be clear in my consciousness. That is what is mine to do. Mine to do is to be clear in my consciousness of what I truly believe and what I believe is possible. And so my message is that each and every one of us is so much more powerful than we know. Each of us is so powerful because remember, trained thought is more powerful than untrained thought. And for too long, way too much untrained thought has been riding, the wave here for all of us. So it's time to get our trained thought in order and to be on purpose, and to create this world that we want to see. So each of us, as I said, is more powerful than we know. And it's time, as Holmes says, to recognize that there is a power for good in the universe, and we can use it. And I will add, it's time that we do use it. It's time. Stop reading about it. Stop, well, Holmes says this and repeating that. No, it's time to internalize this, and it's time for us to use this good. Because you know what? I'm getting tired of this old scenario that keeps popping up. I don't want to see that anymore. And I think as we raise the consciousness, the whole consciousness of our country will change. And, all of this will just fade away. It just is going to go away. So, we must be on the lookout for the often subtle ways of our upper limits and how they show up in our lives, and then we need to hit them with a two-pronged approach. As Holmes says in The Science of Mind, he says we must instill into our mind the fundamental proposition that good is without bounds. Only good and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life. That's Psalms 23. Only good and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life. Then let us begin to accept today more good than we experienced yesterday, and to know that we shall reap a harvest of fulfilled desires. I'm ready for that. And here's a way to instill what Holmes is talking about into our minds. We will call it our gulp-busting mantra. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. So let's say that together. You knew that was coming. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. How simple and yet how profound. This mantra is like an antidote to the years of conditioning and programming that convinced you that you don't deserve, can't have abundant amounts of love, appreciation, success, good, peace, power, plenty. All of those things that are our divine birthright that God has in store for us. It's already given. The kingdom of heaven has already been given. So let's say this again. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day.
I expand in abundance, success, and love every day.
As I inspire those around me to do the same.
As I inspire those around me to do the same.
That's what it means by being a light of the world, right? Let go of the resistance to what is. Remember, what is a result of what we thought yesterday. To whatever the trigger is, to whatever it is our gulp has created our current experience. And as the Borg in our current experience, and as the Borg in Star Trek Next Generation said, resistance is futile. When we let go of the resistance, then surrender to who and whose we are, we invite a pop-through moment. A moment when we pop through an upper limit and we raise the ceiling. We need to raise the ceiling. I love the words of New Thought minister and author Dennis Merritt Jones in his book, The Art of Being. He says, life is just like the ocean, isn't it? Every day brings with it waves, challenges, and swells, fears larger than life, and that seem to have so much power. And if we allow them to, they will intimidate us and keep us sidelined on the beach. However, if we want to have a fully expressed life, we are going to have to get wet and wade out into the surf. Yes, from time to time, we have all those waves that simply seem to overwhelm us. Those are the ones we need to be willing to be lifted by, not dragged under by. This can be difficult to do if we think we can control the waves. The key is to understand that we will never be able to control the waves of life, but surely we can learn how to surf. It's about knowing how and when to let the waves lift us and carry us. It's about surrender in the moment and trusting that the divine intelligence within us knows what it is doing. If we are truly open to that, each wave we encounter in life will contribute to making us master surfers, masters at letting go and letting God. As they say in Malibu or Oceanside, life's a beach and the surf is up, so jump in and enjoy the ride. And that is my invitation to you this morning. Jump on into your process of intentional creation and enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. And when you are enjoying it so much that you encounter a gulp, recognize it for what it is. And apply your gulp-busting mantra. Breathe into it and keep moving your ever-ascending spiral of growth and expansion. I want you to hear this. This is so important. It is your divine right and your divine destiny to raise your upper limit. It is your divine right and your divine destiny to be engaged in the process and progress of creation. It is your divine right and your divine destiny to live a life of joy. You deserve to live there, and the world needs you to live there. When we're living in joy, that's one of those upper vibrational levels, right? And when we raise our vibrational level, it raises the whole world's vibrational level. Let us anchor that together. I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath and say to yourself, it is my divine right and my divine destiny to raise my upper limit. Daily I expand in abundance, success, and love. As I inspire those around me to do the same. It is my divine right and my divine destiny to be engaged in the process and progress of creation. It is my divine right and my divine destiny to live a life of joy. I deserve to live there, and the world needs me to live there. And so it is.